Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Established African. Today, we have a very exciting topic surrounding the LGBTQ plus community with my fierce and fabulous guest, Jazia. Say hey.
Hey.
She is a lawyer. She's passionate about social movements and human rights and all that good stuff. She is also a poet, and she is, what is your creative, your artist? Tell us a bit about yourself.
I'm a human being that exists in a perpetual state of monotony and uncertainty.
That too.
And she's a genre.
But
And
You're a genre. You love jazz.
no, I knew that was where you were going with it. It was just it's okay.
I was like, I knew he was, and
effort.
Castro's already introduced
A for
himself.
effort.
Yeah, you remember my co-host Castro? Well, yeah, he'll also be joining us today on this really exciting episode of Wellness Mondays. So, let's just start by kind of breaking it down, just breaking the letters down on LGBTQ plus and what they mean. And Jazia here will help chime in anytime you think that I've missed out on something. We're just kind of educating people on this. So we'll start with the L. The L stands for lesbians. Now, lesbians are women attracted to women, correct? Okay. G are gay. Gay men are men who are attracted to men. Okay. Now, bisexuals are people who are attracted to both genders. And then
All
there's
genders.
yeah, both genders, yeah. And then there's transgender. They identify mentally and physically as a different gender than the one they have biologically, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I did some research, and apparently it also functions as an umbrella term for trans women and trans men. So apparently this is like the term describing people who have to alter themselves physically, like surgery-wise, or take hormones.
I mean, I can't speak on trans.
Yeah, I also don't know enough. That's why I'm making
in
sure
the
I'm getting all the
community,
terms correctly. Yeah, just to alter their physical bodies so they can actually match how they feel gender identity-wise, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, this is a good point to note, is that gender identity and sexual orientation are two very different things, by the way. So, the shorter version of this is gender identity is who you go to bed as. Sexual orientation is who you go to bed with. That's like the easiest way to put it. just to break that down and not take too long on the intricacies. So queer. So Jazia, could you help break down what exactly that means?
Queer means. Okay, queer is just a general umbrella term for anyone within the community, because there are so many identifications, and sometimes it's just easier to say it like I'm pansexual and non-binary, but I just say that I'm queer. And it's a good way of like identifying someone else who isn't necessarily heterosexual. So you just say, oh, I'm queer, and it's like, okay, you're not heterosexual, so that's pretty good enough.
And in this term, could this also apply to people who are still exploring their gender identity and sexual preferences? They don't exactly know where they fit in the community, but they're still exploring?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I took a decade to really come to this place where I was like, okay, this is where I am, because it was like just jumping each letter and being like, okay, I don't know where I fit in. Yeah, and people are always confused. They're like, oh, but you said you're this, and it's like, girl, I don't know what I am.
So it's not exactly just like, it's not just how people say black and white, like, oh, you're just born this way. It's like it's something that you explore over time. It's an accumulation of different experiences, and that ultimately leads you to your preference, or
I mean,
how would you say it?
it.
Yeah. Politically correct, guys.
I can only speak to my experiences and those around me who I've talked to. Like, for me, I've always known I wasn't straight, and I've always said I'm not straight. Like, that I know for certain. It was just then about finding, okay, if I'm not this, then what
letter
am I? Yeah.
do you fit in?
Yeah, or just like, where does my identity lie? Like, I know people who've come out as bisexual, and like 20 years down the line, they're like, oh no, actually, like, I'm lesbian, or I'm gay, or I'm trans.
So it's a journey. It's not exactly like a fixed thing, or it's like a final destination. Like, okay, I'm born this way, and this is how it's always going to be. Sometimes it's just more of like you explore yourself as you grow older.
Yeah, it's just on the person and how they're having that internal journey, and of course the external one as well.
Okay, great. Gracie, I'm already learning so much. Castro,
Wow,
chime in.
I'm really learning a lot. You know, my thing, and I think what I want to know, because you said you're a professional, you've already just finished the law school, so now you're, just
getting into
I
it.
can call you a lawyer, right? Before you graduate.
Call her a lawyer.
So
LSK would disagree. But
LSK would disagree, but I
But
mean,
you're a lawyer.
You're a lawyer, despite you've done the 5 years, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Kusha maneno.
Eh.
So now I really want to know. Does the government, let's start from there, let's
Yeah.
start with the law.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the government is pro-LGBTQ right now in the country, or we still have the old laws that really still,
The archaic
Yeah.
values that people still hold
Yeah.
so
Exactly.
tightly.
Yeah. What laws are there right now for? Because even you doing this right now in front of
Yeah.
the camera is a little bit risky. You could leave here and you get caught because of just.
Is it actually? It's just to clarify. Is it
That's what
illegal?
I want to
in this
understand
country?
that,
Yeah, I
because
would
she's
like
a
to
lawyer.
know
I'm
this.
sure she has looked it up.
It's
So-
it's not illegal to be out. Like, so me being out is not illegal. It's
Okay.
actually discrimination if someone now attacks me.
Okay.
I can take them to court. And there's a trans woman who's infamous for that, Audrey. And Audrey was not allowed to identify as a woman, but she took them to court and she won. And she's a very well reputed individual and personality within the community. So I can't be discriminated against for being queer. Where the issue does come in is it is still criminal. I can't get married to another woman, of course. I can't partake in relations with, I can't adopt if I do, let's say, go abroad and I marry someone in a country that it is legal and then come back to Kenya. We can't do that. And of course, sodomy, which is the infamous movement Repeal 162,
Yeah.
sodomy is illegal.
Wow.
So I can be here and talk about the community and rights for the community, but on paper, of course, there's so many things like within our constitution and provision that is so ahead of its time. We still don't have exactly women's rights, just as like a
Sort of,
straight
but not
woman.
really. So, yeah.
Not really, not at
Yeah.
all. They're trying to get rid of the 2/3 gender rule, which requires, for every 3 women, there's 2. For every 3 men, there's 2 women in parliament.
Yeah.
The fact that you need a rule, and I tell people from abroad, like, we have a rule for that written down
Yeah.
that says
That speaks for
women should
itself.
be in parliament. Yeah.
the problem's
Ignorant,
already
it's already
It is.
ignorant just to have that law in
It
itself,
is,
right?
yeah. Like even when the polygamy bill was coming about, the female parliamenticians
Yeah.
were not in the room when that was being discussed and passed.
Yeah.
And that's the question they were asking. This is affecting women. So why were we not involved in the processing of this bill? So even what I tell people is, even as like, if I was a straight woman, just by virtue of being a woman, irrespective of what my sexuality is, the law is never on my side. So it doesn't even matter for me because I'm already have the odds against me.
Yeah.
So
So here's the thing. Now, I'm just trying to help because I'm pro heterosexual. Let me say that.
sweetie, just say you're straight.
Just yeah.
Okay,
Let's not complicate matters
straight.
here.
I'm straight. So
He has a boo.
I'm married actually. So here's
He
the
is a
thing.
straight man.
So here's the thing. When in the LGBTQ community,
Yeah.
is religion considered part of it? Can I say I'm gay and I'm a Christian?
Yeah.
Can I say I'm gay and I'm Muslim? Is
Yeah.
it considered?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like being black and Muslim. It's like being Swahili and Christian. It's like being Arab and Jewish. It's not this big like difference. It's just something that people are. It's like having curly hair or straight hair. But the society we live in has decided to overcomplicate it so much and just stigmatize it so much to a point where, like, here on the continent, it is a big discussion. It's a big deal. When you go to Europe, when you go to America, when you go to Australia, it's not a big deal there to tell someone I'm, in the community. Yeah, and
Like here it's
obviously,
considered un-African, like to such
Yeah.
a passionate degree, and people
not religious.
people will just come for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So it's even when people base it off of being immoral, and then it's just like it's something that isn't within your control, can be a subject of like a moral responsibility. Therefore, if you can't control it, it cannot be immoral, you know. So this is not people who just wake up and decide, okay, this is what I want to do. This is part of who they are, and to deny that is already a human rights violation in itself.
Do you feel like in itself now, religion just being in place, do you feel like it confuses the whole narrative of what religion really is? Because like in Christians, the Christianity that I was taught by my mom, it's not allowed to be gay. It's not allowed to be,
Christianity taught everywhere, actually.
It's not allowed, actually. So I really want to understand, because even in the Bible itself, it's referenced that it's not, encouraged to. So do you feel like we are going against the old traditional norms of religion, and there's a new religion that's about to come out? Because I feel like there's gonna end up having one religion, the world that will follow. Our children will never know how Christianity was very, very staunch when when we were kids. They will never understand that. Muslims will, like, even their children, they'll never know how staunch it is. But how is the LGBTQ now in those conversations? How are you guys looking at it in terms of religion? Are you guys planning to come up with your own religion?
I mean, I'll speak for the Abrahamic religions, which is Christianity, Judaism, and Islam.
Okay.
In the Bible in itself, there's nowhere that says you can't be gay. It says man shall not lie with boy, which is a reference to pedophilia, which is still an entire conversation which is within the religious spaces that we're not addressing, but that's another conversation. I mean, the Pope himself has said that it's fine.
Yeah.
Who are we to judge? He who is pure shall cast the first stone.
If God doesn't alter free will, neither should we.
Exactly. Just there's so much to it, like the concept of natural law as a discussion. In Islam, it is a direct mention in the Quran, in the Hadiths, that it is not allowed, except in an instance where a woman needs to be a concubine for another woman, and she has to give her permission to do so. So women can lay with women only if it is for the purposes of the betterment of the family. And that's also under African customary laws within our country. I'm not too well versed on Judaism, but obviously you have the very stout Zionists and the more free will Jews. But when you ask about religion, no one's trying to make their own religion. That would be a cult. Nobody's trying to create a cult. But I mean, I know people who are within the community and they're still religious and they still follow religion. And I know imams and priests and churches and mosques and temples that do welcome queer people. There's, I think, one, if not in Kenya, in Uganda, that exists. Because there's still, believe it or not, there's still priests and imams who are also queer. And when you're telling person, when you're telling this person of God that you cannot be a person of God because of this, that's ridiculous. But I feel like where the issue with religion comes in is if someone's not very well read and not very well
they understand the scripture
aware.
Of the things that they're preaching about. Like you broke it down really well in the beginning, and I was like, I had no idea that's what that actually meant. Man is not supposed to lie with boy, as a reference to pedophilia and how you shouldn't do that, and but people have now kind of shifted that onto like ban homosexuality and like looking down on the queer community. And it's like, it's just funny how the narrative is so selective when it comes to religion. It's really oppressive. It's very oppressive. And even just to touch up on, it's funny because like even when people use like religion, when you are either part of the community or you're an ally, such as myself, then they'll be like, God doesn't allow this, or religion for business. And I'm just like, the thing is, especially like we had mentioned with bigots, it's like, you telling somebody that God forbids this and they don't even believe in God, let's just start there, completely defeats the purpose. And even when they're like, they're trying to protect the institution of marriage, and then I'm just thinking,
divorces.
Yeah, you should ban divorces then if that's what you're trying to do, and forbidding two people who actually love each other despite their gender, is really counterproductive if you ask me, So then there'll also be the referencing of it's very unnatural. Like for me, I did some research, and there's this guy who was like, I don't think it's unnatural because there are like, correct me if I'm wrong, there are 5 great ape species that actually do practice
within the
homosexuality. Yeah, so it's actually very natural from a biological viewpoint that it's just ridiculous that now people are still shunning it to the point where like people are being killed. People can't get married. It's like, okay, so there's this one girl, I love her on TikTok, and she was like, I'm gay and I can't get married. And then she's like, okay, so I'm on a diet, meaning I want all the McFries shut down. I want all the KFC shut down, because she's just like, I can't believe that like we're still being censored to this degree.
Yeah, and in America, within the Cold War period, during the civil rights movement era, interracial marriages were banned because the white folk thought that it was unnatural. Why is white blood mixing with black blood or brown blood or Native American blood? If I was to say that now here, like, okay, let's, I as a South Asian person believe that South Asians shouldn't mix with Africans, so let's ban interracial marriages. That's ridiculous.
But it's still active in Kenya. Yeah?
What? It's not illegal.
But it's active here. They don't allow that. Like, there's a problem with interracial, especially with Asians here. The Asian community, actually.
But that's on a completely different topic of conversation. That's not on a basis of it's unnatural. If we were to go into that topic of conversation, that's as a result of the people who were in power who divided the countries and divided the tribes and divided the races. That's an entire different conversation. It's not on a basis of that God has not said you should do this. And that's where people are coming with homosexual marriages or like same-sex marriages not being legalized or even socially accepted. You know what I mean?
Let me add this one more question. I had a conversation with one of my friends. He's a reformed gang member, and me and him go way back. And I told him, I'll have an LGBTQ conversation this coming week. And you remember the laws in the gang and how it used to be. And he told me, they were consequential. People died over that, So there was a point whereby a kid addressed before, this is a backstory that he was telling me before the powers that be in that gang took him out. The kid said that I was born this way. So he really wanted to understand, because he pitied the kid. In that situation, he couldn't do anything because his peers have to take him out because they found out he's gay. So I really want to understand, and this is a question that he asked me to ask you.
Okay.
Does it really, or is it really real that people can say they were born gay naturally? Is it real, or is it just an excuse that people come up with to be able to,
Well, like
justify that they're gay?
I mean, why would I want to be born? Why would I want to choose?
Like more or less.
Yeah, why would I want to choose something that is potentially going to kill me?
Or oppress me.
Yeah.
No
in a country in a country like this, and that's what the way I've always known. I've known since I was like 10 or 11 years old, right? And what I find funny is like people were telling me you were too young to know. But when I was that age, I was being told, oh, you're going to marry this boy. How do I know I'm going to marry this boy if I'm too young to know if I like not boys or not just boys?
Again.
True.
Exactly. And it's the question I ask people is like, why would I want to put myself in a position where I have to because I feel myself constantly coming out and constantly being in a position where I'm putting myself in harm's way, as you said. And I do recognize that now I'm a bit more at like peace with it. But like the way that I first came out publicly, it was on a Vogue magazine article. And that ended up going to 200,000 people internationally.
Wow.
And in that moment, I didn't realize at the time that this is going to make this much of a mass impact. But I was at that point in time, because this was last year, I was faced with so much violence, physical, emotional, mental. And why would I want to put myself in that situation,
True.
So when straight people come up and they say, oh, you guys are choosing this. It's like, why would I choose this? Why would I want to do this? And a lot of the times I find myself, like, especially when I was a lot younger, like now I have an incredible support system around me. I have amazing friends in the community and whatnot. But it's still like I still know that outside of my safe space, I'm still going to come across people who I have to, and it's the same argument that feminists have. Why do I have to sit here and tell you, like, I have been literally beaten, and that is why this is not okay? Why do I have to say that to you to justify my reason for existence? You don't have to do that to me as a man, as a straight person, and then go the extra mile if you know they're white, because they don't understand the situation color is going through. So why do I have to sit here as a minority and tell you in the majority, like, this is why you should believe me? And I've gotten to a place, I don't care if you want to support me. I don't care if you want to understand. That's not my job. I'm not your mother. I'm not going to walk you.
True.
Google it. You know,
partner, I'm not your parent.
I'm not your parent. I'm not anyone. I'm not your consciousness. That's if you decide
your moral compass.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you decide you still want to create violence against people who are doing absolutely nothing to you, it's not affecting you in any way. It's gonna affect the children. Your husband beating you in front of your child, ma'am, is going to affect your children.
I know that.
So it goes back to what Daniela said about the sanctity of marriage. Let's start with heterosexual marriages and creating safe spaces for those children before you come and tell me about like how I'm not creating a safe space for children or for the future generations.
Also, Castro, just to touch up on this, because I even briefed Jazz before she came. I was like, I know you've done a lot of these like interviews, or like obviously engaged in a lot of these debates where just like, it's not my job to teach you anymore. It's your job to teach you. Like at this day and age, ignorance really is a choice. I personally don't have room for it anymore. Maybe like earlier this year or like later on last year, I was like, okay, let's just save room. I was like, there's just no more room. It's either you stand with us or you stand against us. It's a black and white, right and wrong situation. And on the topic of marriage, even like when people say marriage is only between a man and a woman, and I was like, I really disagree, because like if you think about it, things change. Women can vote now. Not too long ago, voting was between a white man and the government, but things have changed.
It's true. A lot of
things have changed. And this is one of those things that needs to change, because like Jazz has put across, like she's had to fight for her right to just exist in safe spaces, to just be who she is. And people who are like bigots or people who spew hateful undertones towards the gay community and stuff like that, they're contributing to this narrative that's making it illegal and unsafe for the queer community, and it's wrong, and you need to take responsibility for that. You need to learn and unlearn if you must, because at the end of the day, as long as nobody's hurting anybody, I don't see the problem in what people choose to do, or even what's between people's legs is none of your business. Like it's just like why does it bother you? Like homophobic people, why does it bother you so much? Like what's really going on in here? What internal conflict?
I think we when I was even discussing with my
your
my homie,
gangster friend.
Your reformed gang
my reformed homie. He told me this way. He told me like, and he had to go to States to come back to be able to remember, to be able to unlearn how to, because he was homophobic. We were homophobic. Let me just say that. We just had to learn how to stop being ignorant and saying, hey, yo, listen, it doesn't matter who you are, man. If somebody who's sitting in the government is robbing you, your children, and everybody, and you can still, go there and call him honorable, why would you hate somebody who's showing love to another person? It's just stupid. So we were discussing, and he told me another thing. He asked me, do you think the people who are ruining it for the LGBTQ community is the people who are not coming out just to accept the fact who they are? Because there are people who are caught up in marriages. They're caught up in marriages, and they're gay, and their wives know that my husband is gay. And the fact that they're still together is for the sake of the children. So this guy can't leave, and the woman, and they never have any sexual intercourse in that relationship. They're just in that house.
Probably a safety
like,
measure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what would you advise guys who, and I know I have, a couple of friends who I've worked with in the corporate realm who are gay, but they don't want to come out and say who they are, but they'll hide themselves
society,
with girls, they'll hide themselves.
The gay beard, is it called?
What would you advise? Do you feel like, first and foremost, do you feel like that they're ruining it? Second, what would you advise this kind of people like?
I mean, it's no one should tell anyone to come out of I believe that this notion of like, oh my God, everyone should come out of the closet, I wouldn't have if I had the choice, to be very perfectly honest. I'm just here because I was pushed, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm here now, so I'll speak for everyone, or whoever I can speak for. But I don't think anyone should feel the need to come out. Yeah, if it's safer for you to stay in the closet and stay in that marriage, of course it's unhappy, it's definitely just hiding yourself and whatnot. And it's unfortunate, but I have friends who do that, and we've had those conversations, and it's like, I will literally be killed if I do. It's like not if, but maybe I will be murdered if I do this.
Isn't it punishable by death is it Uganda or which country?
Any Sharia law country, most African countries, yeah. I mean, over here, when Repeal 162 was going on, someone was beaten to death, and there was absolutely nothing done about it. And that's not okay. Yeah, in Uganda, they actually say, yeah, it's fine, we'll look the other way if you beat them up and kill them. So if it's safer for you to not come out, don't come out. Don't listen to what anyone else is saying. Just do what is safe for you and best for you. And if that's not coming out, then don't come out. Don't feel pressured to come out.
Let me tell you one thing, and this is facts. I mean, whoever wants to go check it out, go check it out. Do you know Black Lives Movement?
Black Lives Matter?
Yeah, Black Lives Matter movement wouldn't have been very instrumental and effective if it wasn't for the LGBTQ.
Period.
Did you know that?
Marsha P. Johnson.
Did you know that?
Marsha P. Johnson.
Now, do you think, because right now in Kenya there's so much slavery going on, but people don't know in terms of, the fact that you're a young person in a very resourceful country and you're broke, there's no money. So do you feel like if the LGBTQ community stands up right now and they say, yo, you know what, we're going to fight for our rights, they'll pave the way for the revolution that you're seeing in Uganda, you're seeing in Nigeria?
We have been. We've taken it, like, okay, so for anyone who doesn't know, it's in the penal code that sodomy is criminal. So what that means is physical relations between two men. And they've taken it to court. It's been going through court. Now it's in the appeal process because the court rejected it and stuck to the penal code. But it is there. The movement is there. Just by like me sitting here and doing this, that's a part of the revolution. There's an amazing organization here called the Trans Queer Fund, and they take donations and they help like house and give education and whatnot back to people who have been kicked out.
Down below.
Yeah.
So people who have been kicked out of their homes for being in the community. I've worked with a poetry organization called Paza Sauti that gives a platform to queer poets and writers, as well as female straight cis writers, because we found that the poetry scene is very patriarchal, it's very chauvinistic.
It's true.
Very many women have been assaulted by men in those spaces as well. Yeah, so there is a lot that's being done. It's just obviously it can't be done on the same scale like, let's say, the BLM movement is in America, and that's for obvious reasons, colonization, amongst other things. But it's there and it's being done. It's just, what I tell people, it's a long journey.
Wow.
We're not going to achieve equality tomorrow or even while I'm alive, to be fair. It will probably be with like my brother's generation or his kids' generation, but it is there and we are trying. Like just something simply like Audrey being able to say, I'm a trans woman living in Kenya, and that in itself is such a big deal. Within the sporting industry as well, Casta Semenya, Dati Chand, she's Indian, Casta is South African. They're gay women, married and dating women, and they are finding themselves being discriminated against within the sporting industry because they're not traditionally feminine women. And so there's a lot, and they're still fighting. Like CASTA is still fighting the Court of Sports Arbitration to be able to run races, because that's a whole other thing as well. Dati is the same thing, where she is fighting her community and society by being able to be a gay Indian athlete. So there's a lot that's being done, albeit it's being done on a small scale. But I don't think anyone needs to be a part of a revolution, or like everyone needs to be a part of the revolution. It would be great if we had that, if we had the allies, if we had the communities, the minorities, just everyone banding together, even something as simple as the Saba Saba protest. If we had the blue collars and the white collars there together, that would have been amazing. But we didn't have that. We only had, because the upper middle class don't want to put themselves in that position.
Privilege.
Privilege, capitalism, so many things. So many things. So there's a lot of factors involved.
This has been very educating, and I believe nikoshua watu wangu wale kuko mtaa, yani, I know that person who's in the community, in your community. I mean, I'd want to give this closing remarks we'll start with you, and then Danny.
Sorry, before we close, I just had like 3 questions. Just just to ask Jazz before we close. Okay. So Jazz, has homophobia in Kenya put you in harm's way?
Yes.
It has. Do you mind sharing just one experience that you've had, so people can see the in-depth look on how severe this hate can be?
I wouldn't go in depth, but I have been in a position where I've been like physically assaulted as a result of it. So.
Okay, so that's a definite yes. Okay, have establishments in Kenya ever spewed hate crimes against the community? Have they discriminated against the community? Like, we can say maybe restaurants, bars, we don't touch the religious institutions. Definitely yes.
Yes, Jay's.
Jay's got closed, so
Amen.
Amen to that.
Amen.
Yeah, Jay's was a bit problematic. I heard a lot of issues, not only with homophobic.
No, even sexist.
Sexist and racist. A little bit racist.
I mean, I know so many women who've been assaulted at Jay's by bouncers, by people there. Yeah. So it goes beyond, like, insofar as you're a woman, irrespective of your sexuality. Again, like, there's always room for you to be violated against by the system.
Watu wa klabe G hamwezi elewa, lakini saa tu yani ni saa tu.
Aside from obviously doing the work and doing the research yourself, how best can we educate the majority on ways we can help the queer community, show up, anything of the sort? Like, please tell us organizations we can support. Please, maybe YouTube links people can watch that have been helpful towards like allies such as myself who are trying to just do better and know better.
I mean, I can't think of any links off the top of my head, but I know like BBC Africa has done quite a few segments on that. There's a few refugee camps on the borders that are constantly finding themselves in, being assaulted and whatnot. So I think the one organization I can think of off the top of my head is Transqueer. Transqueer Fund, yeah.
Okay.
So Mathare Slums they're an NGO, local NGO-based group. They were doing that for a while as well, but they haven't been as active during this quarantine period or like since Saba Saba.
Okay.
But yeah, I think like off the top of my head, like Paza, Sauti, and Transqueer Fund.
Okay, great. We shall drop all the links down below, guys. And just to wrap this up, thank you so much, Jazia, for joining us. I personally learned so much. I did research, but she clearly takes the cake.
She took it, man.
And I'm so happy to be in a space where we're just learning and birthing better perspectives on such important issues. And
I think I'll add on my closing remark. I think I'll just go by. There's a writer called James Baldwin. He's one of the activists for human rights, and I read a lot of his books, and he's very inspiring. I just, liked him as a person, and he was gay. His books were very revolutionary, but the guy was gay during when those times was very, very difficult in the 60s. So he said, love him and let him love you. Do you think anything else under heaven really matters? So I think that was a very big statement, because I think this world needs love more than anything. And I see, my mentors, people like PDD, always pushing about love. I believe love will be something that will probably heal this whole world, because we're here because of not love, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I don't know, what's your closing remarks with this? What would you like to tell them? What would you like to tell especially to the children in the ghettos, who don't have this kind of protection,
or
like in Madare or Kibera or in Karibangi where I come from, ukisema tu yani mini shoga, it's a rap. They start chopping you up, you know what I mean? So I think you have gone through it, you've physically been abused, emotionally abused. What's the word of encouragement you feel like you need to give these youngins out there so that
if you're comfortable, of course.
I mean, I don't think I'm the person to give words of encouragement. I still come from a place of privilege. Just the fact that I'm able to find safe spaces, I'm able to find people, not like a lot of the community I have they're not Kenyan, they're from abroad. The fact that I have that ability to find people outside of my immediate sphere and circle, I'm the worst person to give. Like, I keep telling people I got so lucky, and I don't understand how I got.
And the fact that you can acknowledge that is so powerful.
That's powerful.
Yeah, it is, but it's like bittersweet, because it's like I do know there's like you said, the kids in like the slums who probably themselves have such self-hatred for what they are. Because they don't have like, and support. Because I feel like also getting like a good education and being able to be well versed and well read within these topics does give you a better understanding about things. And probably someone who hasn't got that, they just feel so much anger towards themselves and anger. And it's like how you said, they just end up in these situations, in these marriages where they don't want to be in.
And the suicide
perpetuating a lot of unhappiness, especially amongst men, because I feel like men and mental health is also a completely different topic, but and so with that said, as you just to touch upon the notion that you had mentioned, you said love, like, so in true fashion, love wins, guys. So open your mind, open your hearts, and close your tabs if you're gonna hate on this. And guys, just please just constantly keep trying to evolve yourself and progress your mind. We'll catch you next time for the next episode. This has been Established African. See you next time.